For what feels like forever, the crypto world has been caught in a tug of war. You've probably heard it a million times. You can have privacy or you can have compliance, but you can't have both. And you know what? That single idea has been a massive wall keeping big-time institutional finance from jumping in. But in this explainer, we're going to see how that wall is finally being smashed to pieces. All right, let's get into it. And hey, don't just take my word for it. Jeremy Allaire, yeah, the CEO of Circle, the company behind the USDC stablecoin, he put it pretty bluntly. He said privacy isn't just some nice-to-have feature. The lack of it is the single biggest thing stopping serious, large-scale businesses from moving on-chain. This isn't a small hurdle, folks. It's the hurdle. And here's the core of the problem, right? It's like oil and water. On one hand, you have public blockchains, which were built on this idea of radical, total transparency. Every single transaction is an open book for the whole world to see. But on the other hand, you have institutional finance, which runs on the exact opposite principle, absolute confidentiality. I mean, seriously, can you imagine a company putting its entire payroll on a public ledger? Or a hedge fund telegraphing a massive trade to all its competitors? No way. It's a total non-starter. So you have to ask, how did we even get here? How did the word privacy become such a lightning rod, especially in regulatory circles? Well, to understand that, we need to rewind and look at the first wave of privacy tools that crypto gave us. The first generation of crypto privacy tools, well, they weren't exactly subtle. Things like coin mixers and the early privacy coins, they were designed for one thing: total, absolute, disappear in a puff of smoke anonymity. And while that's powerful tech, it immediately set off all kinds of alarm bells for regulators. They saw it as a potential tool for bad actors. And that's what really cemented this idea that privacy and following the rules just couldn't exist together. So let's take a quick look at how these early models actually worked. You had coins like Zcash using really advanced cryptography, ZKS and ARKs, to basically put the entire transaction inside a black box. Then you had Monero using different tricks like ring signatures to mix up who was sending money to whom. But notice the common goal here? It was all about hiding the who. It was about making the participants completely untraceable. But right now, the entire conversation is flipping on its head. There's a huge paradigm shift happening. We're moving away from that blunt, all-or-nothing approach of anonymity and toward a much smarter, more nuanced idea: confidentiality. And the engine driving this whole change is something called programmable privacy. This is the big idea behind new projects like Fairblock. Instead of a simple on-off switch for privacy, it's more like a whole toolkit. It gives developers the power to decide exactly what needs to be encrypted and, this is the important part, to set very specific rules for when that information can be decrypted. So let's make this super clear, because this is probably the most important distinction. Anonymity, the old way, was all about hiding the who. It was about making it impossible to link a sender to a receiver. Confidentiality, the new model that businesses desperately need, is about hiding the what and how much. It protects the sensitive data inside the transaction, like a salary or a trade size, without making the people involved totally invisible. That's a huge difference. Okay, so that's the big idea. But theory is one thing. How does it actually work in the real world? Let's dive in and take a look at how Fairblock's Stabletrust model actually pulls this off. It's actually a really clever balancing act. The system automatically encrypts the stuff that matters most, the transaction amounts, the balances. But, and this is crucial, it leaves the wallet addresses themselves out in the open. So what you get is the best of both worlds. Your critical business data stays completely private, but the flow of money is still traceable, which you need for compliance and for things like DeFi to work. And the process itself is pretty slick and secure. So first, a user locks up their transaction in a digital safe and sets a rule for when it can be opened, say, after a certain amount of time has passed. Then, that encrypted package gets posted to the blockchain. Once that condition is met, a whole decentralized network of computers works together to generate the key. Only then is the transaction decrypted and executed. The coolest part? No single person or company ever has control of that key. Suddenly, with this kind of technology, a whole universe of business activities that were impossible on a blockchain are now on the table. And this isn't just a random list. These are real, expensive problems. Take payroll. No company wants its salary information to leak. Or think about M&A deals. One visible transaction could tip off the market and completely derail a billion-dollar acquisition. This tech makes those core financial operations finally possible on-chain. Payment Momeni, the co-founder of Fairblock, has the perfect analogy for this. He says it's like HTTPS for the new on-chain internet. You know how we all went from seeing HTTP to that little green lock icon for HTTPS in our browser? That meant our connection was secure.
Well, this is the same idea, but for securing all the value and all the data that's going to live on blockchains. And that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. This is the real aha moment, where that old myth of privacy versus compliance really gets blown out of the water for good. But wait a second, right? This is the question everybody asks. If all the important details are locked up in an encrypted box, how on earth can a regulator or an auditor do their job? How is this compliant? The answer is really elegant. It's not about hiding everything forever. It's about having precise control over who gets to look inside the box and when. So here's how it works. The system is designed so that an authorized party, like an auditor, can be given a special key to decrypt one specific transaction if they need to for an audit. And this is so important. This is not a master key to see your entire financial history. It's surgical. It's not the blanket surveillance that everyone is afraid of. And because of this, the model is built from the ground up to be compatible with major regulatory frameworks like OFAC, FinCEN, and Europe's new MiCA rules. Okay, so let's zoom out. What does all this actually mean? Well, solving this puzzle isn't just a small upgrade. It fundamentally rewrites the playbook for the future of open finance. Because when you finally figure out how to deliver institutional-grade confidentiality that's also compliant, the result you get is so much bigger than just privacy. You get the foundation for what the source material calls incorruptible markets and machines. Now, that might sound a little bit like science fiction, but what it really means is building a financial system where the rules are baked right into the code, making it immune to human error or insider advantages. By stopping information from leaking out at the wrong time, you kill off manipulative strategies like front-running, where bots can see your order coming and jump ahead of you to mess with the price. When you get rid of that, you get fairer, more honest price discovery for everyone. And that is the bedrock of trust you need to build the next generation of really serious institutional-grade apps on-chain. Which leaves us with one last, really exciting question to think about. If this massive barrier, business confidentiality, is no longer an issue, what part of the global economy is going to be the next to make the leap on-chain? The possibilities, it seems, are finally wide open.